Okay, Linda, so I know that these tanks are versatile, and I understand that people are contemplating using them for other things.
People have contacted us about using them for storage of dry goods.
Okay.
And we've had a couple customers that have actually worked out a bucket pattern that fits in there. I actually was hired once to do that, and it gets real crowded once you get 3 or 4 layers of buckets in there.
Yeah.
And that seemed to work. It worked. You know, that customer was happy. So.
Okay. And now tell me again how...
You do want to put down a row of plywood between the buckets, and that gives you an easier surface to work with, and it also helps protect the buckets from crushing underneath the weight of the ones on top of them.
And would you put plywood on the bottom?
Not necessary. I think it fit inside the grooves somehow. It doesn't really look like it would.
So Anita, ask about condensation inside these when you're using it.
Right, okay, so Jan just brought up a really good point.
For dry storage?
So if you're trying to use this for dry storage underground, obviously you're trying to do this so you can be discreet, and you're using, you know, your buckets and things like that. Are there any limitations, like is there condensation or moisture? Or
well, we don't really know, but I mean, condensation is basically when warm air hits a cold surface. Plastic is not famous for being a cold surface like metal or cement would be. So if you have a stable temperature that's relatively warm, and you're not letting warmer air go into it, then it shouldn't really have condensation. But of course you'd want to take all the ordinary precautions about caulking your lid and maybe putting an umbrella over it, that kind of thing.
When you say put an umbrella over it, are you talking about a Mary Poppins umbrella? What are you talking about?
Ideally, no. An umbrella is when you use like a sheet of plastic, either heavy-duty visqueen, or they actually make specialty products.
A pond liner.
Like pond liner, heavy-duty plastic, and then you cover the whole thing with that so that when it rains, it runs off to the sides and doesn't actually get on your, on your tank.
And again, you said these are designed to carry 2 feet of dirt on top?
Yes. And you can have as many as 3 risers, but obviously the 3rd one would be sticking up. So when you see those risers sticking up out of the ground, like the Red Wind Casino, those are risers.
Okay.
And they could be 2 feet deep, or that they might have just done them, you know, flush. Well, we have just ordinary 55-gallon barrels that you can just...
See those all over the countryside?
Yes.
And what was in these?
Olives or pepperoncinos, or some had capers or garlic.
Wow.
A whole barrel of pickled garlic. I know.
That works for me.
Dive in there? Okay.
And I've heard that you can actually, someone came one morning and said she Googled how to take the pickle smell out of a barrel and got very complete, thorough instructions, which we should find and put a link on our website.
Okay.
We'll do that for this article.
Excellent. Okay.
And do people put barrel pumps on these barrels?
You can.
Or would you just dip in there and with a bucket?
You can. That's the simplest thing, is just to dip in. Of course, you risk contaminating your water.
Oh, there you go.
But you can put a barrel pump on them. These are not plumbed, so you'd have to cut a hole and put a 2-inch bulkhead fitting in.
Now that I know what one of those is.
4 different sizes of bulkhead fittings.
Okay.
Those are the cheapest. Those are $8.
Okay.
The biggest ones are $18.
Okay.
So we also carry 2 bung barrels, but we're out and we have a long waiting list. But those.
Well, what is a bung? I've heard you talk about a bung, but what's a bung?
So a bung are these 2 things on the barrel, and there's 2 different kinds of threads usually. And the fine threads is regular pipe fitting thread, male pipe thread, and that's what your barrel pump would screw into.
This one, Linda.
So this is a retired wine barrel, and we got those in because someone was telling us that you need a wooden barrel to make corned beef the old-fashioned way. and they were going to try it, and so they needed a wooden barrel, and so we got a couple extras.
Solid oak.
So you'd have to cut the top off and make a another way of doing the opening on top and put a plug in the hole.
And you said it's solid oak?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Well, what else should we know?
We sell buckets, but they're not very photogenic. We can also get this size, which I think is 15 gallon. I believe it had Pepsi syrup in it.
Okay.
And those are $20.
And why would someone choose that?
Well, they're easier to handle if you were going to take it camping or something, or if you had a small space. We had one person who, you know, put some in her closet.
We have here now.
Okay. 4, 5, and 5 gallon containers that had soft drink syrup in them. So they are food grade. There might be some soft drink odor to them. And then 5 gallon buckets that we get used, but we get brand new rubber gasketed lids to go with them.
Great.
The containers are $4 and the buckets are $4.50.
Okay.
And they're supposed to be clean, even
And
though
what do
they're
people
used.
use the buckets for?
Storing food, water,
Okay.
keep the mice out of, you know, dog food, stuff like that.
Okay.